Good evening, everyone. Today is July 3, 2019, or it's Ave 1, 2022, a new moon Sabbath day. Today we're going to study the kingdom of Yah on this earth during the 1,000-year millennium. And we will begin in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. So John the Revelator sees an angel come down from heaven with a key. And the key is to the bottomless pit. And he has a chain in his hand also. Well, what is this key to? Well, when you go to Revelation chapter 1 and verse 18, it says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. This is Yahshua speaking. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death. So when Yah has the key of the bottomless pit, he has the keys of hell and of death. Yahshua. Right. Yahshua the Son, Yah the Father. So he has a great chain and a key of the bottomless pit. Verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. So this angel has the key of the bottomless pit, and this key is to the has the keys of death and hell. And he puts a chain on Satan and bounds him into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. So what does this bottomless pit mean? What does that mean exactly? Well, we go to Job 17 and verse 16 says, they shall go down to the bars of the pit, when our rest together is in the dust. So when you go to the pit, you rest in the dust. What does it say? In Genesis 3, from dust thou art, and to dust shalt thou return. So when you die, you return to dust. So when Satan is put into this bottomless pit, it shows that the keys of hell and death shows that he is dead.
So what it's saying here is that Yahshua, that's the angel, he has the keys, because it says in the beginning, which he went to in Revelation, where he has the keys to death and hell. You're putting all this together to understand the whole meaning. The whole meaning is that Yahshua has the keys to death. So if he wants to kill you, he will. And he does. And this is saying that he has cast Satan bound him 1,000 years and cast him into the bottomless pit. So in the way the Bible is telling us, we can gather by putting all the keys together, because the Bible is its own expositor. We don't have to depend on a person. We can look and see that the pit is the grave and hell, and we have other scriptures that show this besides just Job.
Isaiah 14.
Right. So we've got to get this picture of what we're seeing here. There's 1,000 years being spoken of. There's Satan being spoken of. There's Yahshua being spoken of. There's the pit that's being spoken of, and this gives us understanding.
Right.
So we'll go to Isaiah.
Yeah, and also in verse 3 says he should deceive the nations no more. So when Satan is put in this bottomless pit, the nations are still around. They're still in operation. But he's not able to deceive them because he does not exist. He's
dead.
Yeah. And if you go to Isaiah 14, says verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?
So right there,
he deceived them. Right.
It's bringing in the nations. He weakened the nations by telling them lies. And now we're seeing what is the future prophecy at this time in Revelation, what's going to happen in this day.
Yeah, verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
Right.
So Satan is brought down to the pit, to the grave, to hell. Hell is the grave. And so when he's there, he's gone. He's not wandering this earth for 1,000 years, a desolate earth. The bottomless pit, as the scripture says, is the grave. And if if we go to, we'll just keep on reading. Let's go back to Revelation 20.
I want to go to Isaiah 51:14 since we're in Isaiah to talk about the pit. And it says, Isaiah 51:14 says, "The captive exile hasteneth, that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail." So there's more than just one reference to the pit. Did you go to Job?
Yeah, we read Job 17, but I want to go to Ezekiel chapter 28. You know, Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, both describe Satan as Lucifer, who was one of the anointed cherubs in heaven. It says in verse 15,
28:15.
yeah, "Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Yah, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire." See? And then you go down to verse 18. "Thou hast defiled thy sanctuary by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore I will bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee." So Satan's going to get burned up as well. "And I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth, in the sight of all them that behold thee." So when Satan gets burned into ashes, there's going to be people there watching it. "All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more." So he comes to his end because he gets burned up.
But in Ezekiel, the same chapter, if you started earlier, it says, "Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit,
Right.
and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas."
So there he goes, down to the pit again.
Right. So this is death, and it says in 10, "Thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised." So the Bible is explaining to us itself. If we don't know what the bottomless pit is, then you go to these verses that are telling you what the pit is. Isaiah 14:15 and Isaiah 51:17. I think there's one in Isaiah 24:22.
Yeah.
So what we're setting up here is we're letting you look at there's going to be a time when Satan's not here to deceive the nations.
Right.
This is a prophecy.
So, and then it says in verse 4, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them." And you go down, and it says, "And they lived and reigned with Messiah 1,000 years." So here we have a people that's living and reigning with Yahshua or Messiah 1,000 years. They're on thrones. They sit upon him. And then if you go to Revelation chapter 5, and see what that says. This is a judgment scene, Revelation 5, and we'll read verse 10. It says, "And hast made us unto our Yah kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth." So these people in Revelation 20 that sit upon thrones, and they're to rule with him for 1,000 years, they're going to do it upon this earth for 1,000 years. And if you go to Isaiah 24, see what that says.
Did you read Revelation 26?
Okay, go ahead.
"Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power. But they shall be priests of Yah and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years."
Priests.
So 2 times in Revelation 20, it's talking about these 1,000 years, and that they reign with him 1,000 years. And then when you went to Revelation 5:10 right now, it says same thing: "Kings and priests and shall reign on the earth." So it's letting you know that Satan's no longer here in verse 3, that he won't be there to deceive the nations, and there'll be those people of Yah that are reigning with Yahshua 1,000 years.
Right. And then Isaiah 24 says, verse 19, "The earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean dissolved, the earth is moved exceedingly, The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it's come to pass in that day that the Yah shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. So he's punishing the kings that are upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. So these kings of the earth are shut up in the pit, in the prison. So in the many days are the 1,000 years. They are no more.
And they're visited
dead.
again after the 1,000 years, when we come to that time of the 1,000 years
when
end.
the 1,000 years ended, then they'll be loosed out of their prison for a little season, it says in Revelation 20.
Which is 100 years.
Yeah, and in verse 23, then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Yah of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. So Yah, during this 1,000-year period, is going to be reigning here in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, here upon this earth, for 1,000 years with his kings and priests. See? So, if we go to, I want to read Volume 9 of the Testimonies, page 63. That's what Ellen G. White says. But if our life is hid with Messiah and Yah, we shall see of his grace and salvation. Messiah is coming to establish his kingdom on the earth. Let our tongues be sanctified and used to glorify him. So, he is coming back. Everybody talks about the second coming of Yahshua in the clouds of heaven. That's when he comes back, he's going to establish his kingdom on the earth. Why is that? Well, he's got to fulfill the prophecy of Daniel chapter 2. We'll go to Daniel chapter 2 and read verses 34 and 35. See, the earth is a very key word. There's a difference between heaven and earth. Verse 34, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. There were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. So we have this little stone cut out of the mountain, SDA, which is 144,000, breaks the image to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. They have a harvest. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. So this stone, this little stone that hits the image on the feet, grows and fills the earth. Not heaven, but the earth. And then in verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the Yah of heaven set up a kingdom on this earth, like Sister White said.
And like the scripture says, fills the whole earth.
Yeah.
This is the kingdom on earth.
Which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So this kingdom, once it gets established here upon this earth, never ends. It stands forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the brass, the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great Yah hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, in our day, in the future. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So prophecy is a sure word, that therefore is mandated that it shall come to pass. So it says here he's going to reign in Mount Zion, Jerusalem gloriously, and it talks about his holy mountain being established here upon this earth in the latter days. If you go to, I think, Isaiah chapter 56, see what that says, because I want to show you what this holy mountain is too. Isaiah 56, verse 5. Even unto them will I give in mine house and within my walls a place and a name better than the sons and of daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Well, what is the everlasting name? It's Yasharon, that's the name of his people. Also the sons of the stranger that join themselves to the Yah to serve him and to love the name of the Yah, to keep his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant. So you got to be a Sabbath keeper to be a part of this organization. even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted on mine altar, for mine house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Yah, which gathereth the outcast of Israel, saith, Yet will I gather others to him, besides those that are gathered unto him. So he's bringing his people to his holy mountain. And what is his holy mountain? In Isaiah 2, talks about in the last days what this is. Verse 1, the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days, that the mountain of the Yah's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. So the mountain of the Yah's house is his kingdom church. It's his the mountain is the Yah's house. So this is what his holy mountain is. And it's going to be exalted above all the other nations and churches in the world, and all the nations are going to come here. Why? And many people shall go and say, Come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Yah, and to the house of the Yah Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we'll walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yah from Jerusalem. So we see a work of worldwide magnitude and importance carrying forward from Zion, Jerusalem, and Israel in the last days and beyond. This is during the millennium. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're talking about the millennium. We're talking about how the priests and kings rule the 1,000 years, and we know that the Seventh-day Adventist Church always talks about Daniel in the Revelation. Now, in Daniel 7:17, let's go 7:18. It says, But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Okay? And 21 says, I beheld in the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So this was during the Dark Ages, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment, because it says that they're going to be priests and kings and they're going to rule on the earth, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. And if you go on to 26, it says, But the judgment shall sit and take away his dominion. This is talking about the little horn power, the papacy, who is in control right now, barely hanging on. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it to the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. So there's nothing to be afraid of. They no longer control anything. Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and dominion shall serve and obey him, who is Yasha, who's going to be ruling in this millennium time, where the saints are with him, and they are ruling, okay? The dominion's taken away from them.
Right. Because, the dominion that we're talking about that they consume and destroy is this little horn head, which is the papacy, which is the sixth dominion. This dominion is brought to its end in our day, in the latter days. The Roman Catholic Church comes to its end, and the saints possess the kingdom forever and ever. And who is their leader? Well, if you go to verse 13, Daniel 7:13-14, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So we have the Father and the Son here. And there was given him, the Son of Man, dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and this is the seventh dominion, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So when he sets this thing up, it's forever, and everyone that comes against it, they're going to be destroyed. If they don't come in line and follow the word of the Yah and his laws. And keep his laws.
His kingdom has laws.
Right.
They're not lawless.
Yeah. And if we go to Joel chapter 2 and read verses 23 to 32, be glad then, you children of Zion, or the children of Zion, Zion and Jerusalem, that's all repeated quite a bit in the prophecies. Rejoice in the Yah your Yah, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the former rain and the latter rain in the first month. The latter rain being the law of Moses. And the floor shall be full of wheat, and the vat shall overflow with wine and oil. So there's a harvest. You gather in the wheat, the wine, and the oil. And I will restore to you the years. He's going to time restoration. And that the locusts have eaten, and the cankerworm, and the caterpillar, and the pommel worm, my great army which I sent among you, uses insects to destroy crops and so forth. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Yah your Yah that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. So you definitely want to be his people. You'll not be ashamed. All you have to do is obey his voice. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Yah your Yah, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. So he's right here in the midst of his people Israel on this earth during this 1,000 years. It shall come to pass afterward that I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old man shall dream dreams, your young man shall see visions. This happens on any typical day of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit comes in power again, and much greater power than it did in the days of the apostles. And also upon the servants, 144,000, and upon the handmaids, and in those days will I pour out my spirit. So here we have miracle working power comes back to his people during this time, during the millennium. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire, pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Yah come. These are signs in the heavens that are taking place. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Yah shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Yah has said, and in the remnant whom the Yah shall call. The remnant being the 144,000. So there's going to be deliverance in Mount Zion and Jerusalem. So that's where you want to go to learn the ways of the Yah. It says in chapter 3, for behold, in those days, during the millennium, in those days and at that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. See, the 12 tribes of Judah and Israel are in captivity today, so he's got to bring them out of captivity from among the heathen, back to their own land. It says, I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, or Yasharon. His people is Yasharon, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So forth. And then you come down to let's go to verse 10. Verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare a war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I'm strong. So you have this war of the heathen coming against Yah's people. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about, till it calls thy mighty ones to come down, O Yah. So Yah has mighty ones on his side. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. It's the time of judgment during this millennium. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the winepress, the vats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Yah is near in the valley of decision. So that's where the world is today. They're in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Yah also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. So, if he's going to roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, that means he's right down here in the midst of his people. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Yah will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall you know that I am the Yah your Yah, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. No aliens, no foreigners, no one that doesn't follow and obey and keep his covenant. So he's dwelling in Zion. Zion's his holy mountain. He's right here in the midst of his people. He says in Isaiah 24, he's going to reign before his ancients gloriously. So during this 1,000 years, Yah and Yahshua are both upon this earth, directing the activities that are going on to gather the nations, to convert the heathen that will be converted, and to destroy those that fight against his people.
He's taking back the earth.
Right.
He has parables in which he speaks of the householder, and he comes back and he finds out that everything's gone awry, and this is what's going on here. He comes back and finds out that everybody's believing satanic doctrine, doctrine of devils, that his own churches have been taken over by Jesuit. The Jesuits are not a religion. They are Roman sexual perverts, and they've taken over the churches. They've taken over your church. They've taken over even the people that have come out of churches, and they go into these other places looking for the feast days or looking for one true God and finding out the Trinity was false. These are all false doctrines, but they're false shepherds who have taken over, and Yah himself comes back to save his children. Yahshua himself comes back to fight for the kingdom. Yahshua, his 144,000 and the Father are all the end sign. They are all the ones saying, this is the last 1,000 years before probation is up, and I am taking out these false teachers, false shepherds. I'm taking out anyone who does not proclaim my law. His law is his word. So anything that he has said, and they come and interpret it in a private interpretation, and they tell the people, and the people believe it, Yah's upset. He's getting them out of the way. He's taking down the whole Catholic Church, which is in Revelation 13. And he's taking down all the false prophets, and he's given the kingdom back to his children because he gave them the land. Okay? There's a verse that I'm going to go to, and it's about the land.
Deuteronomy 11? Okay. Well, I'll go to Deuteronomy.
Go ahead and read what you're going to read, and I'll find it.
In Deuteronomy 11, this was the promise made to Israel prior to going into the promised land. What would happen to them? And the promises were great. It says in 11 verse 21, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which the Yah sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. So the days of heaven are going to be here upon this earth during the millennium. They'll look like they should have been when Israel went and took the land back in the days of Moses and Joshua. For if you shall diligently keep all these commandments, which I command you to do them, to love the Yah your Yah, to walk in all its ways, and to cleave unto him, then will the Yah drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place wherein the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours. From the wilderness in Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall be your coast. There shall no man be able to stand before you, for the Yah your Yah shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that you shall tread upon, as he has said unto you. So here you go. You just obey his voice and keep his commandments, statutes, and judgments. You'll be the most mighty and powerful nation in the world. No man can stand before you. Everywhere you soles your feet tread will be yours, your possession.
This is the thing, though. The Catholic Church has taught all of the churches underneath them that the law of Moses was abolished and nailed to the cross. But these covenant promises that he's given have all in it saying you have to keep the statutes, you have to keep the judgments. Deuteronomy 12 says, these are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Yah of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it. all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods upon the high mountains and upon the hills. So if you're under this satanic belief system that they've put into even the SDA church, that the law of Moses was abolished at the cross, by twisting and making it a man's false doctrine, twisting Colossians 2:14, twisting all these things so that you will not believe that Yah is coming to give you back the land. If you're on their side, if you say the law of Moses was abolished, if you say the feast days were abolished, if you say I'm not going to keep these days, I don't believe it, I don't like it, I'm against it, you guys are crazy, you're cuckoos. If you say that, then you better pull your skirts up and start running. Because Yah's coming back to take back the land, and he's giving it back to the people he made this promise to. This is what I was going to read next, is Leviticus 26:42. Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, which Jacob's name was changed to Yasharun, which is Israel. You know it as Israel, but that's the twisted name. The original name is Yasharun. It says, then will I remember my covenant with Yasharun, also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham. Will I remember, and I will remember the land. We're talking about the land in the millennium, that we give back the land. This is a promise. He cannot lie. Yah cannot lie, so he can't give you a promise. And the people who twist his words say, oh, that was conditional, he didn't mean it. If you're a parent, you know that when you speak to your children and you give them a promise and you say, this is a promise, I will do this, you know it's not conditional. You know that you say, I'm going to meet with you on this day and we're all going to go for a picnic and I'm going to make your favorite food and we're going to go out and we're going to go swimming. You don't take it back and go, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. So he says, I will remember the land, because in Leviticus 25, he's giving all the stipulations on how the land comes back. And I don't know if we want to go there right now about the land, but yeah, we do. Ellen G. White, because these twisters, which are the Jesuits in the SDA church, lying tongues, they don't know the Bible, they don't understand the Bible yet, they're giving you their doctrine and you start believing it, so when you hear the truth you get freaked out because you've never heard this before, but it's in the Bible. But Ellen G. White has some statements about the land. Okay, this is in Ministry of Healing, page 184. And although one might for a time dispose of his possession, he could not permanently barter away the inheritance of his children. So a parent can't sell it and then be like, oh, my children don't have a place to live. So all these promises about the place to live for the seed, for your generations, for your children, the days of heaven on the earth, they all have to be fulfilled, because he has to have a place for the children to live, to grow crops, to grow trees, to grow fruits, to grow nuts, to have nourishment, to continue the generations. He has to give you back the land. The land is super important. The land is super important, and Satan doesn't want you to know about this. He doesn't want you to know about the law of the land, which is all in Leviticus 25. So Ellen G. White says that you couldn't permanently barter away your inheritance of your children. When able to redeem his land, he was at liberty at any time to do so. Debts were remitted every 7th year. And in the 50th or year of Jubilee, all landed property reverted to the original owner. And Ellen G. White has quotes about when the Jubilee commences. But this next one says, the land shall not be sold forever. And this is also Ministry of Healing, same page, 184, but further down. It says, the land shall not be sold forever, was the Lord's direction. For the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And in the land of your possession ye shall grant a redemption for the land. If thy brother be waxen poor and hath sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem then that which his brother sold. And if the man himself be able to redeem it, he may return unto his possession. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that had bought it until the year of Jubilee. So the millennium is our Jubilee. The land is reverted back to the original owners. He gave it to us as a promise. We're the seed, we're the children, and we get this back. Also, it goes to our parents who come up in the resurrection. It says, ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. Thus every family was secured in its possession. See, Yah has a plan, and he says so in Jeremiah 29:11. He says, I have a plan for you and an expected end. Okay, the last part says expected end. This is what is written in the law, Levitical law, that we get the land back. It's written in the Bible. It's written in the scripture. It's written in Revelation. It's written in Isaiah. It's written throughout Ellen G. White's writings, but nobody's reading the writings. It says that it returns every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. We're all going to get gathered back, people. Our whole family. We're going to know our grandparents, our great-grandparents, if you read Ezekiel 37, which we probably will get to that. This is what else she says. In apportioning the inheritance of his people, it was Yah's purpose to teach them, and through them the people of after generations, correct principles concerning the ownership of the land. That's what we were supposed to be getting from our parents. We were supposed to inherit their land. And people who are giving away the land to the Catholic Church, who is so-called named SDA, Seventh-day Adventist Catholic Church, if you're giving your land to them, you're going against the law of Moses, because the land is never to be sold, okay? It's to go to your children. It says, the land of Canaan was divided among the whole people, the Levites only as ministers of the sanctuary being accepted. Though one might for a season dispose of his possession, he could not barter away the inheritance of his children. When able to do so, he was at liberty at any time to redeem it. Debts were remitted every 7th year. Still, in the United States, if you have a debt after 7 years, they cannot hound you about it. Except, of course, they've made an exception and they do student loans, but it's not to be that way. So, it says, he was at liberty at any time to redeem it. Debts were remitted every 7th year, and in the 50th, or the year of Jubilee, all landed property reverted to the original owner. Thus, every family was secured in its possession, and a safeguard was afforded against the extremes either of wealth or of poverty. So right there, that is where we get our laws today. If you don't know this, the reason why the evil people are against the Constitution is the Constitution was based on the law of Moses. And one of those things is at the 7th year, if you have not been able to pay back your debts, you still get you get that remitted. You no longer owe it. Here's another quote. By the distribution of the land among the people, God provided for them, as for the dwellers in Eden, the occupation most favorable to development, the care of plants and animals. A further provision for education was the suspension of agricultural labor every 7th year, the land lying fallow and its spontaneous products being left to the poor. Thus was given opportunity for more extended study, for social intercourse and worship, and for the exercise of benevolence, so often crowded out by life's cares and labors. So we are supposed to every 7 years rest, and every 50th year is a Jubilee, which we believe the next Jubilee is
2031.
31.
2,000 years after Yahshua's crucifixion.
Right, which we're going to get back our land.
When the millennium begins, 1,000 years, and Satan is, on the Day of Atonement in 2031, Satan is put into the bottomless pit. He's put out of commission for 1,000 years.
Here's another one about giving back the land. It says, were the principles of Yah's laws, see, these are principles of laws regarding the distribution of property carried out in the world today, how different would be the condition of the people? And observance of these principles will prevent the terrible evils that in all ages have resulted from the oppression of the poor by the rich and the hatred of the rich by the poor. While it might hinder the amassing of great wealth, it would tend to prevent the ignorance and degradation of tens of thousands whose ill-paid servitude is required for the building up of these colossal fortunes. It would aid in bringing a peaceful solution of problems that now threaten to fill the world with anarchy and bloodshed. So you see in the nations people rising up against their leaders because businesses have attained colossal fortunes, like Bezos, Amazon, Facebook, Google,
Zuckerberg, Bill
Gates. They're all doing this evil against the poor by putting vaccines and acting as if they're so great. And all of this has happened because we're not following the law of Moses. So in the millennium, the law of Moses goes forth. And all those people who thought the law of Moses was abolished are come to shame because they end up gnashing and weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there's more quotes from Ellen G. White that if you would like them, you could write me a little note underneath. I'll look for your comments and I'll be glad to give you all these quotes from Ellen G. White about the land going back to its original heir. And there's this is a quote from Hadif. This is the next one I'm going to read. A computation of like manner was employed to define the year of Jubilee, said Yah. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. That's Leviticus 25:8. The 50th year, while the land rested, being also a type of the millennium, showing that the land shall keep a Sabbath rest. A like computation is used. Therefore, at the beginning of the 1,000 years is the commencement of the Jubilee in its antitype. And as the land was returned to the lawful owners in the typical year of Jubilee, just so it will be in the antitypical, returned to the saints. So, we have something great to look forward to instead of being in fear of persecution.
Right. Let's go to 1 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with Yah as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. So here we see to the Yah that one day is 1,000 years, 1,000 years is one day. And if you go to the book of Exodus chapter 20, go there to the 10 Commandments. We should all know what the 10 Commandments are. Exodus 20, and we'll read verse 8.
The 10 Commandments is the tables of the testimony.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. So we have 6 days to labor and do all thy work. Then verse 11. For in 6 days Yah made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Yah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Now he created the earth in 6 days. And he says we have 6 days for labor, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Yah. And it says in 2 Peter 3:8, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Yah is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. So when you have 6 days for labor, it means he set up 6,000 years after Adam and Eve sinned for man's probation and for redemption, the plan of salvation. But the 7th day is the Sabbath. The seventh year, the 1,000 years, when Satan is no more, is the millennium, 7,000 years. So we have to fulfill 7,000 years upon this earth before we get the new heavens and the new earth. But during this 7,000 year, there's going to be peace in the earth, like it's never been before. Since
after he cleans out the land.
He's going to clean out the land. He's going to get rid of the wicked, the heathen that won't serve them. They'll eventually perish. If you go to Isaiah chapter 60. So we're on the, what Ellen G. White always used to say, the borders of eternity. And when you get to the millennium, and if you're in that kingdom, which fills the whole earth, you'll receive that penny a day, which is everlasting life. Now, if we go to Isaiah 60 and verse 12, verse 11, therefore thy gates shall be open continually. These are the gates of the city, New Jerusalem, They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and their kings may be brought. Now, in that day means that in that day is 1,000 years from the end of the 6,000 years until the 1,000 years is finished, and then Satan and the wicked dead are resurrected for another 100 years. But it says in verse 12, it says, therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring into thee the forces of the Gentiles, and their kings may be brought. Forces being the wealth. For the nation and the kingdom that will not serve these shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So if you don't want to serve Yah during this 1,000 years, then you're going to perish. Your nation and kingdom will come to naught. Only the nations and kingdoms that follow him will continue on. And if you go to Isaiah 26, it shows us something in Isaiah 26 and verse 1. In that day, now the key in that day, and it's mentioned several times, especially in the Old Testament prophecies of Isaiah, Jeremiah, Zechariah, Ezekiel, and other places. It's referring to the 1,000-year millennium. It's a key word, in that day. Isaiah 26:1. In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. Salvation will Yah appoint for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation which keepeth the truth may enter in. Open ye the gates to what? The holy city. The righteous nation, of those righteous nations will get to enter and come in and out of that city. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Trust in the Yah forever, for in the Yah Jehovah is everlasting strength. So, then verse 9 says, with my soul have I desired thee in the night, yea, with my spirit within me will I seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. So when Yah judges the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn to become righteous. You get tired of being suffering and persecuted and all these things that they've endured for 6,000 years under the reign of Satan the liar. Now if you go to Revelation 22, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yah and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So when this holy city comes down, and nations go in and out the gates are open continually day and night, that the leaves of this tree of life are to heal the nations, to restore the nations, to bring them back into harmony with Yah and everything else. And then when you go to Ezekiel 36, let's go to Ezekiel 36, where it says, verse 33, thus saith Yah, in the day, that's the millennium too, in the day that I shall have cleansed you from all your iniquities, I will also cause you to dwell in the cities, and the waste shall be builded. So we're talking restoration here. And the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by. And they shall say, this land that was desolate has become like the Garden of Eden. And the waste and desolate and ruined cities are become fenced and are inhabited. So we have the Garden of Eden, that the desolate land is returning like the Garden of Eden. Then the heathen, see, the heathen is still around during this 1,000 years.
It shows you that we're not in heaven.
Right. Then the heathen that are left round about you shall know that I, Yah, build the ruined places and plant that was desolate. I, Yah, have spoken it, and I will do it.
So I want to just say, if Yah says he's going to do something, it's not a lie, it's not pretend, it's not figment of your imagination, it's not spiritual, it's literal. And he's going to do it. He's going to make the earth that was desolate, because see, it becomes desolate when he goes around taking down strongholds from these wicked entities, these wicked
kings, wicked rulers, wicked nations,
wicked churches, wicked
evil empires,
anything that that is evil and disgusting to him, he's going to zap it like he did Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
He can just take down New York, he can just take down Washington, he can take down Los Angeles, he can take down any evil place where they do sacrifices of children, where they take all the bodies of the aborted babies and use those things for makeup products or Pepsi and Coca-Cola products. You can just go in and just take it out. You can just do a zapping. A fire can come down on that one place. He doesn't have, just like he did in Battle Creek, he doesn't have to take out the whole world. He can just take out the evil places and they become desolate places. And then when it's time, he's going to transform the place where he's going to hold his headquarters and make it a beautiful Garden of Eden.
Yeah, he's going. His sanctuary is going to be there. His holy city. That's what John saw in chapter 21. The holy city come down from heaven as a bride adorned for her husband. So the holy city comes down to this earth. And Ellen G. White says that when Yah's feet touch the Mount of Olives, it spreads, and that's where the holy city lands, is on top of the Mount of Olives.
And it's not after the millennium.
Yeah, it's during the millennium. Right, and sometime during the millennium, this holy city will be established upon this earth. The Garden of Eden will also be here.
I want to talk about something that has been a belief that most people had, and it's just that we didn't have enough light to show people the truth. We didn't have enough light, but now the light has come, and we might have believed a different scenario, that Jesus was coming, we're getting in the clouds, we're going to heaven, instead of this millennium that the Bible is actually speaking of, and that the people are going to come out of their graves and they're going to go up into heaven. What does the Bible say? Let's go to Ezekiel 37. Since we were in Ezekiel 36, it was talking about these latter-day events. It's also telling us what happens to those who come out of their graves.
Well, verse 38, I'll read that right quick. It says, as a holy flock, as a flock of Jerusalem in her solemn feast, so shall the waste cities be filled with flocks of men, and they shall know that I am the Yah. So here's one of the requirements for people to become righteous, holy, just, and good, is to keep his solemn feast. That's a big order. The statutes, the commandments, you got to keep all the law of Moses that he's written if you want.
Just not the animal sacrifices.
Blessings and rewards that come with this everlasting covenant. And they will. His people will do that. Go ahead.
So I'm kind of jumping the gun here, because I know that people are asking in their heads, Ellen G. White says we're going up to heaven, but we've got to remember that the Bible is the authority. Yeah. And sometimes Yah has a way in which he gives the truth, and in measure and at the correct time. And so there's many places where Ellen G. White actually talks about the kingdom, and so you may just be misunderstanding. But let's look at what the scripture says about this resurrection, because we all believe that, we're going to come up out of the grave and we're going to all go into the cloud and go to heaven. And they use early writing 17, but there's a place where it says we come down onto the earth and we go into the holy city. So that shows that the holy city is on the earth before the millennium, or not after the millennium. Okay, so let's look at the prophecy of the people who are in their graves, the whole nation of Israel. And when we say Israel, we mean Yah's people, because there's people that didn't know they were a Hebrew. They just thought they were just a Gentile, but they were not, and they went into their graves. Let's look at this. It says, again he said unto me, this is in Ezekiel 37:4. Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Yah. Thus saith the Yah unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter in you, and ye shall live. So these are bones, and what are bones? They're remnants of bodies. But it says that he's going to cause breath to enter into you, and they're going to live. So it's a resurrection. It says, I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you. And ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Yah. So I prophesied, and as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking. We always talk about the shaking. There's going to be a shaking, okay? And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, So this is Ezekiel's vision. Prophesy unto the wind, Son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith the Yahweh, come from the four winds. So we know the prophecy in Revelation 14 is talking about the four winds. O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So these bones are going to live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up on their feet, an exceeding great army. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off from our parts. Therefore prophesy, say unto them, thus saith the Yahweh, behold, O my people, I will open your graves, and cause you to come up out of your graves, and bring you into the land of Israel. So it's saying that these bones, this resurrection, the whole house of Israel is taken where? What does the scripture say? It says, bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am the Yah when I've opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. And shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. How is it their own land? It's their own land because it was spoken of in Leviticus 25 about the Jubilee, and that the land goes back to the rightful owners. Okay? And it says, then shall you know that I am the Yah, have spoken it and performed it, saith the Yah. The word of the Yah came unto me, saying, moreover, and then it goes into the two sticks. Well, how does this come into our study today also? We were talking about the bottomless pit, right? We talked about it. That's how we started this. We talked about the bottomless pit, and that Satan's put into the pit and he dies. But what else does it say about the pit? What does it say about the pit? It says that the locusts come out of the pit. Where is that?
Revelation 9:1.
Okay. Revelation 9:1.
Fifth seal, or the fifth trumpet. Yeah.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So that's Yasha. He has the key to the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun...
So when he opens the bottomless pit, we have a resurrection. People coming out of their graves, just like Ezekiel 37.
He can open it to put you in the grave, which is Satan. He can open it to take out his people from the grave. And he says, it was given the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So there's going to be a time when the smoke, and that takes you to Solomon, Song of Solomon, but I'm going to go to this. And there came out of this smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. So you see, this says that these people come up an exceeding great army. Exceeding great. That means they have power, okay? And here it says, there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth. So these, they're told, you can hurt some, but you can't hurt the grass, which is good. Neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Yah in their foreheads.
So this happens during a time, Revelation 7:1-4, the angel sending from the east with the seal of the living Yah. He puts it in the foreheads of his people. And if you don't have that seal, or in other words, if you have the mark of the beast, you get hurt by these locusts.
And so it says, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh the man. In other words, they're going to be tormenting them with the truth, okay? And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. That's why they're an exceeding great army, okay? And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold. Crowns denote kingdoms, like they are powerful, they have power. And their faces faces were as the faces of men. So that tells you they're humans. Now, not these people who are giving you some prophecy that these locusts are some whatever. Okay? And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. Teeth consuming, they consume the kings of the earth. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots. Okay? They're an exceeding great army. They have vehicles that make these noises. Of many horses running to battle, and they had tails like unto scorpions, because it's what they have is the truth that the people that are anti the law of Moses, people that are anti Yah's word, they don't like it when this judgment is coming down on them. It says, and they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. They could hurt you.
Yeah.
Okay? And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. So this, when people tell you that this is Satan and his army, it's a lie, because it's Yasha who has the keys to death and hell, who has the keys to the bottomless pit. And it says, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue is Apollyon. It means
destroyer, terminator.
Destroyer and terminator. So this time when all these things are still to happen, all these events are still to happen, we're not ending it, folks. We don't decide, oh, we're chickens and we're going to cut our heads off and we're going to run and hide in the hills because the Catholic Church wants us to keep the Sunday. We're not worried about that. That decree is just the same decree as Nebuchadnezzar said, you need to worship this image, and the three young worthies said, no way, we're not gonna worship him. Okay, well, you're going into the fire. And what does Isaiah 43 say? Though you walk through the fire, you will not burn. So don't worry about the Sunday law. Don't worry about these decrees, because you're going to be reigning and ruling the earth. And in some part of this scenario, these are the people who come out of their graves. But there's 144,000 who have their part to play. And you see that Satan's not here to deceive the nations. So there's no way he has any power. And by this time, see, Revelation 13 talks about the Catholic Church coming down, being burned with fire.
It's the wicked. The wicked are suffering at this time, not the righteous. It's the time of trouble such as never was. The wicked are being destroyed. So in verse 16, Revelation 9:16, it talks about, this is in the 6th seal, and the number of the army, the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. So you add that up, that's 200 million. This is that army of Ezekiel 37 that comes forth, the whole house of Israel. And I saw the horses in the vision. So these horses in the vision. Where you go to Joel 2:1, it says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound alarm in my holy mountain. There's this holy mountain again. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Yah cometh, for it is nigh at hand. The day of the Yah is, the day of the Yah is 1,000 years. It's the millennium. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as a morning spread upon the mountains. Churches, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So you have this great people and strong. It's these horses that come out of the bottomless pit.
And there's many generations after that. It's not over.
It goes well into the millennium. A fire devoureth before them, behind them a flame burneth. The land is as a garden of Eden before them.
Right.
So they're going back to the land, the garden of Eden. And behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, nothing shall escape them. So everything they go through, you don't accept their message, follow the truth they're teaching, then your land becomes desolate wilderness. And the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Which is what Revelation 9:16 says, they're like horses. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble. As a strong people set in battle array. So this is going to be an army set, they're here to do battle. They're here to take out the wicked. Before their face the people shall be much pain. Why? Because they're not on the side of truth. All faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. Have war again. And they shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. They all walk in order. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. can't kill them, can't do nothing to hurt them.
So what is that song that we sing as little children in Vacation Bible School? You know?
No.
Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. Nothing can stop them. The earth, they're on the earth here, of course. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. This great dreadful day of Yah.
The stars withdraw their shining. Are these people that people look up to them like celebrities, like
superstars.
All these false prophets that people go around following them around like little puppy dogs because they think they're so great, and they're celebrities. They're celebrities to these people. Those fake stars go out. Okay, they're no longer the ones you go to for truth and false prophecy and fake doctrine.
They speak lies, so Yah gets rid of them when you're in it.
Right, so they stop shining. They're gone.
And the Yah shall utter his voice before his army. So in order for the Yah to utter his voice before his army, he has to be here in their midst. For his camp is very great. He has a big army. For he is strong to execute his word. For the day, this 1,000 years, for the day of the Yah is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? The only ones that can abide this great and dreadful day are the righteous, those that do his will. Now if we go to Zechariah 14:8, and it shall be in that day, during the millennium, it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea and half of them toward the hinder sea. Summer and winter shall it be. And the Yah shall be king over all the earth. Not heaven, but over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Yah, and his name one. So he's here, there's only one Lord, one Yah. Not two, not three, just one. And in verse 4, will be verse 16. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to worship the King, the Yah of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So during this millennium, year after year, people come in to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it says, and if the family of Egypt go not up and come not that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Yah will smite the heathen. So the heathen is still there, even while Yah's in Jerusalem, that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So we're going to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles during this millennium. That means we ought to be doing it right now too. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day, in the millennium, shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Yah, and the pots in the Yah's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness. So it's going to be holy. They're going to be holy people unto the Yah of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them and seed therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite, no more the sinner in the house of the Yah of hosts. There's only going to be righteous. No Canaanites, no aliens, no sinners. See, and then in chapter 13:1, in that day there shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the house of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness. So in that day he's going to be king over all the earth.
I wanted to talk about what I was saying earlier about the army, exceeding great army, and that they come out of the bottomless pit and there's smoke that comes out. And it says in Song of Solomon, he's talking about the marriage of him with his people. People don't understand that, but it's saying in Song of Solomon 3:6, who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchants? He's looking at his bride and he's seeing all these things, and he says, thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof every one bare twins, and none is barren among them. See, he's telling us what his bride's going to be like. Thy neck is like the tower of David, builded for an armory, wherein there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. So he's looking at his bride saying, this is what you're like. You're going to come up out of the earth. You're going to have teeth that consume. You're going to have a neck that's like an armory, like mighty men. It says, until the daybreak and the shadows flee away, I will get me to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. And he's just talking about how they come up and what they look like and who they are. And he throws this into the Song of Solomon. So it's embedded in there to let you know, this is his bride. This is what you've waited for. I went away for a long time, but I come back and you're my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I've eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. I'm coming to you. And it says, there are 80 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. My dove, my undefiled, is but one. See, the 144,000 are undefiled. They have no guile in their mouth. She is only one of her mother. She is a choice one of her that bare her. The daughter saw her. Who is she that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners? It also says it in 6:4, thou art beautiful, terrible as an army with banners. Thy teeth are as a flock of sheep. So in all of that, people don't understand that. He's talking about his wife, his bride, his people. They're like an army, and yet he loves them like a wife. And this is what Ezekiel 37 is talking about. This is what Revelation 9:1 is talking about. This is what all this is going on, and Satan is on the earth, and Satan is dead. He's in the bottomless pit, and it's in the millennium.
Right. Now in Habakkuk 2:14 says, for the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Yah as the waters cover the sea. So we can see here that the earth, it's not like that today, but it will be during this millennium, during that day. And then Revelation 18:1 says, I saw another angel come down from heaven having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. See, these prophecies must be fulfilled. This has to happen. Yah's being reign over all.
The earth lit with his glory is not a momentary thing. It's that all this time people are going to know who Yah is. They're going to know what his law is. They're going to keep his feast days. They're going to come up and worship him. They're going to finally have a time without Satan. It's not going to be in darkness. The people are not going to be covered with gross darkness and not know that Yah is expecting to have them come up and worship him on the feast days.
Yah came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hands, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet.
Horns coming out of his hands. Yeah. Power. That's where he was nailed to
crucified.
Nailed to the cross, and now the power comes out. It's his blood that he
sheds afresh.
Sheds for you when you confess your sins, which we have the quotes, if you need those quotes, about his blood being used for you, pouring forth afresh.
You got to have that blood system today if you want to get into the land.
Testimonies to Ministers, page 92 says, the efficacy of the blood of Christ was to be presented to the people with freshness and power, that their faith may lay hold upon its merits. And we have whole studies about this blood
system.
As the high priest sprinkled the warm blood upon the mercy seat, while the fragrant cloud of incense ascended before Yah, so while we confess our sins and plead the efficacy of Messiah's atoning blood, our prayers are to ascend to heaven, fragrant with the merits of the Savior's character. Notwithstanding our unworthiness, we are ever to bear in mind that there is one that can take away sin and save the sinner. Every sin acknowledged before Yah with a contrite heart, he will remove. This faith is the life of the church. So it says here that the high priest sprinkles warm blood. And today we know that it's Yahshua's blood. Read Patriarchs and Prophets, page 411 to see that.
Haggai 2, verse 20. And again the word of Yah came into Haggai in the 420th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen. And I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. In that day, saith the Yah of hosts, I will take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, saith the Yah, and will make thee as a signet. For I have chosen thee, saith the Yah of hosts. So, we're the signet, or the ensign, the Yah's people in the latter days. Now in Zechariah 2, it's a latter day prophecy. We'll start with verse 4. And he said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. And that's here in the very near future. For I, saith the Yah, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. He's going to put a wall of fire around Jerusalem and his people. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith the Yah, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heavens, saith the Yah. So they're spread abroad, but they're going to be gathered back to their own land. There's a lot of prophecies on that. Verse 7, Deliver thyself, O Zion, Zion, the 144,000. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. The daughter of Babylon here is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He's got to bring forth 144,000 at SDA. And then they stand on Mount Zion with the Lamb, but then it's all over. It's Katie barred the door. Everything follows in its order, and Satan and his dominions all come to their end. For thus saith the Yah of hosts, After the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. That's how jealous Yah is for his people. If any of these wicked touch his people, he goes after them. For behold, I will shake mine hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and you shall know that the Yah of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith the Yah. There you go. Yah's going to come and dwell with the daughter of Zion in the midst, here on this earth. And many nations are going to be on this earth, and many nations shall be joined to the Yah in that day, the millennium, and shall be my people. See, even these heathen nations are going to join him and become his people, because they're going to be converted. And I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that the Yah of hosts has sent me unto thee. And the Yah shall inherit Judah's portion in the Holy Land. It's going to have the Holy Land again. And shall choose Jerusalem again. Well, Jerusalem was back in the days of King David. It was his city. It was back then for many years until they went into captivity. Even when Joshua was on this earth, Jerusalem was his city. But they rejected him, so Jerusalem got destroyed. But he's going to choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before the Yah, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. And then in Zechariah chapter 8, verse 20, Thus saith the Yah of hosts, It shall yet come to pass that there shall come people and inhabitants of many cities. See, this thing's worldwide. They come from here, there, from cities all over the place. Where? And the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, Let us go speedily to pray before the Yah, and to seek the Yah of hosts I will go also. See, they want to get up there pretty fast. They know he's there.
It's going to be it starts with an R. It's a restitution of all things, but it's a revival. People are going to be different than they are today. They're going to be soft-hearted, and they're going to know that Yah is in his city, and they're going to want to go see him, and they're going to want to talk to him, and they're going to want to know about him, and they're going to be kind to the followers of Yah. It's not going to be the way that it is now, because Yah is going to remove all the evil. The
wicked are going to be destroyed.
Controllers. The control people, that people who are so scared to talk, they look at their controller and go, is it okay if I speak? And the controller says no. So like you could be in a Sabbath school class and hear the word of the Yah, but you're afraid to speak. In this day, it's going to be different. The whole earth is going to be lit with his glory, and Yah's freeness and liberty is going to be here. You're not going to be controlled. You're not going to be controlled by your Jesuit, what do they call it, agitator, that controls the puppets in government, in schools, in churches. They're all going to be gone. So you're going to be free to hear the truth. You're going to be free to hear the light. You're going to be free to see the light. Your eyes are going to be open. People are going to want the truth. It's not going to be like now how people don't want the truth. It's going to be completely different. It's going to be completely beautiful. And you may say, well, I want to go to heaven because heaven was supposed to be beautiful. Actually, he restores this earth to a paradise when he does the new earth. And in the millennium, he's giving people a chance to make their decision. Do they want to follow Yah? Do they want to keep all the feast days? Now, of course, there's the house of Yah gets judged first. So that's the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because they're also blocking the truth from the people. That anyone who's blocking truth from the people, like these pastors who call us up on the phone and tell us they're going to call the police, like the pastors who run the conference who say that anti-Trinitarian heresy, that's what Ted Wilson said. So all these people are going to be taken out, and it's going to be load lifted, freedom. You're going to, if the Spirit leads you, you're going to do it. You're not going to be afraid. It's a whole revolution, a whole revival of true spirit. You're going to have a soft heart. It says, I will take out the stony heart and put in a heart of flesh. You're going to be different. People are going to be different. It's going to be that thing where you sometimes say, you remember how it was when I was a little kid and we would go to so-and-so's house and we didn't have to call? All that kind of stuff, but better. It's going to be, I mean, Ellen G. White talks about then commences a jubilee, and everybody's happy. A jubilee means you're jubilant, or
jubilant,
yeah, jubilant, and you're joyous and you're free. A slave is freed. Okay, you're a slave because you have to pay all these taxes and you have to do all these things that the government tells you because they started speaking as a dragon. You can't speak freely. You can't even say the word Yah. You can't even say, is it okay if I say God? Is it okay if I say Yah? Is it okay if I say Yasha? You can't even do that right now. People will shut you down, and the evil is so great because Satan has convinced them of their evil ways, that their evil ways are good. He's turned it upside down, where transgender is good and evil is good. It's going to be totally different. We're going to have the law of Yah, the law is the perfect law of liberty. That you will feel jubilous, you will have land, you will have family, you will have love. You've never seen this before. This is what is going to be happening
during the millennium. This is all going
here
to
on earth. The days of heaven on the earth. That's what Deuteronomy 11:24 says. Read that.
Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Yah of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before the Yah, because he's there. He's here in Jerusalem on this earth. Thus saith the Yah of hosts, in those days, the millennium, it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold of all languages of the nations around, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that Yah is with you. So if you follow the Jewish plan of salvation, the people will be attracted to you, want to go with you, because they know if they follow you and up to Jerusalem, they will also be saved from their iniquity.
But it says, what advantage then hath the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? See, many people don't like the Jews, but what is the advantage? It says, much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of Yah. What are the oracles of Yah? That's the law of Moses, the oracles, the words that he spoke to Moses and said, everything that I say, write it in a book and keep these, and you will do well to, you will be blessed if you do all these statutes and judgments. So that's finally what's going to be going forth throughout the land is the oracles of Yah, his words, his law. It's going to be spoken, and it's going to come forth from
people
him
rejoice.
even.
The law go forth to Zion, the word of Yah from Jerusalem. So they love it.
Right. His words are going to come forth as water, and it's going to heal you because you've never heard his words before. They've always been twisted, and you've heard a different doctrine, and the doctrine of this, and the doctrine of the flesh, and the doctrine of who knows what, that these Jesuits in the theology schools of Andrews and Walla Walla, and all these places where they've allowed the Catholic priests to teach classes, and all these ministers that can't even read the word just straight as it says. They have to twist it, and it's not going to be like that. It's going to be the straight testimony. It's going to be straight truth, straight law, straight words. In the beginning was the Word, that's Yah, and the Word was with Yah. The Word and Yah was the same. The law was going forth. It wasn't twisted like it is now. It was straightforward law from Yah's mouth. That's what was in the beginning.
No beguiling. We've been going for over an hour, so you.
Okay, well.
Look, let me read Zechariah 12, and we'll close this study. In Zechariah 12:1, it talks about in that day again. It says, "The burden of the word of Yah for Israel, saith the Yah, which stretches forth the heavens and layeth the foundation of the earth." This is his earth, not Satan's. "And formeth the spirit of man within him." That's why he wants to redeem this earth, because it's his, and redeem his people. "Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and Jerusalem." So they're still going to be wicked, trying to take Jerusalem, even when Yah's there. "And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces." So you're going to burden yourself with Jerusalem, you're going to get cut up. "Will all the people of the earth be gathered together against it? In that day, saith Yah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, and the Yah of hosts their Yah. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like a hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem." Not going to be moved. It's right where it's always been. "Yah also shall say the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Yah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, full of courage. And the house of David shall be as Yah, as the angel of Yah before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem." So if you're going to burden yourself with Jerusalem, try to come against and destroy it, he's going to destroy you. "And I will pour out upon the house of David, upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace and supplications. They shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son." So we're looking for in that day, he's going to be king over all the earth. All these are going to take place on the earth in that day, in the millennium. We're just barely touching the surface. There's hundreds of more scriptures that back this up, the Old Testament prophecies, and
something to look forward to.
The land. This is part of the everlasting covenant.
It's a jubilee. It's a proclaiming of liberty to all the people of the earth that want to come under Yah's kingdom. And we look forward to this, and we want to end it here. For as Alan said, it's been going on. So let's end it here. We hope that you're blessed by this message. We hope that you will continue to seek and rewind this and read it over and look up the scriptures for your own self.
Look them up yourself.
And may the Yah bless you, and we will see you in our next video. Thank you.
God bless everyone who hears his word.